Greetings, people. How's it going? Before I forget, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that kind of stuff. I tend to try and say it at the beginning because otherwise I forget. So this week, I'm going to talk about recent kind of experience. In fact, this week, in the last 2 weeks, um, I had an experience this week at work where we used, well, it was Amazon Q was the AI, but we got to use that to um, do some tasks and experience its power or strength, and it was quite scary, to be fair, only because I've been working as a DevOps um, digital platform engineer for about a year now. I've always done development, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'd ever not do development again, but this was kind of an interesting, you know, different aspect. I think I might have said before, it was like looking behind the iron curtain, where I've always worked in development on the front end, and this is obviously managing all the bits in the background, you know, your Jira's, your Confluence, your AWS stuff, all that kind of, you know, architecture. And yeah, so it was interesting. And then this Amazon Q, the AI that they're, I don't know if it's actually completely rolled out now or if it's just still being rolled out. Let me reposition myself. Um, but it was kind of like, it got some tasks, kind of it was like here's some tasks to do. They call them like game days or hackathons. But it's like, here you go, here's some tasks, use Amazon Q. And literally it was to take an application and basically modernize it and deploy it to like an EC2, and then out to using EKS and stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, kind of you'd have to think about doing, but literally, like any other AI, you just type it in the CLI, modernize this app and deploy it to an EC2, make sure it's got a public IP and is accessible. For that, create all the security groups, you know, and literally, and all the ARM users and stuff, and it would literally just do it all for you. And it would take this application that was sitting on a drive, although it was a virtual drive, but a drive, and build it, put it onto the EC2, or create the EC2, put the application on the EC2, build out all security groups, all the necessary users, and then execute it on a public. Oh yeah, and I think as part of that command, you'd also say, if I remember right, deploy all the tools. I can't remember the exact command you use, but you know, you have this whole sentence of create an EC2, deploy all the applications that are required for running a Tomcat, and deploying an application to run. So it would literally just do all that and create it. It would create the EC2, create the security groups, deploy the software such as Tomcat, and then take your code. I think we're using Java, but there was a Python version, and then build it, deploy it to the EC2, and run it. And then you literally would have a public IP that is obviously created as part of the EC2, and then port. I think it was 8080. It would be running the application, and then it was like the next task was, okay, this is a generic old Java. Have it build in, say, Java 21 and Spring Boot. And literally, again, with the AI say, okay, take this, modernize it, build it in Java 21, and make it a Spring Boot application, and it would do all the work. And it, again, have it, and as part of that, I think we said create a new EC2, deploy all the same software, security groups, and deploy the code. And it did, and it built it, and it modernized, built the EC2, added all the security groups, run Tomcat, ported the application, put it on port 8080, I think, again, and there it was. It was a Spring Boot application. Now, the scary thing is that we did absolutely no code. We didn't go and build the EC2s, we then add the security groups, we then deploy the softwares that were required for running uh, Tomcat and also the application, and again with Spring Boot, it lists it all for us. And the scary point is, it's like, is this going to mean that as these AIs get better, um, developers aren't going to be developers? They're going to be basically prompt development, create prompts. Now, there is a caveat to that, because, to be honest, it does get things wrong. It did get things wrong. Um, some of the things it worked out, they'd done it wrong, and it recorrected itself automatically. Some of the things we had to say, no, you've done that wrong. And to say that you have to understand the concepts that it's doing. Um, so it's not as if, like, oh yeah, you can just like blindly run it. But it's just scary to think that, and you see it all the time with these vibe coding, where people do vibe coding on channels. It's scary to think that, you can write an application, or create an application, not write, because you're not actually doing it yourself. Create an application using AI just by adding, these basically prompts that say build me an application does this, and you can do it without having any knowledge of the language or development. Um, and part of the scary stuff is that it can do it, but the other part is that it does get things wrong. It can bugs in there, and if you aren't a developer to understand, or don't, you don't have to be a developer, just understand development, to see where those bugs can appear, then you could have applications built with bugs moving forward, and bugs being built on top of bugs. Although you can ask the AI to check for bugs, and again, it's pretty good at that. So, is the art form of software development kind of gone? Are we moving to an era um, where you kind of become more of sort of a technologist that maybe understands IT, but doesn't necessarily understands the art form of developing an application? We just rely on AI. And, that may not be a bad thing, but, is this what it's coming to? I don't know. Anyway, some thought there. I don't know. I think, what you guys think. If you have experienced it, do you feel the same? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? Well, I'll leave some comments below. Right. I'm going to go, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.